inside Forrest. A man who's very much on form, that is Shane McGrath. And the Premier boys are on their way.
Hello and welcome along again to the Life Changing Moments podcast series on The42. I'm Fintan O'Toole and we're chatting today with our latest guest in the series, Tipperary All-Ireland hurling winner Shane McGrath. Now, we've teamed up with UPMC, the official healthcare partner of the GPA and GAA, to produce this Life Changing Moments podcast series. With over 40 hospitals, 700 doctors and 90,000 employees globally, UPMC is providing life-changing medicine to communities across Ireland. To find out more, go to www.upmc.ie. Okay, so as I mentioned, Shane McGrath is our guest today. The Ballynahinch club man was part of Tipperary's All-Ireland senior win a decade ago. He also won 2 All-Star awards in 2008 and 2014 and plenty of Munster medals at various grades in his time with the Premier County. Shane, welcome along and thanks for joining us.
No bother, Fintan. Glad to be here, mate.
So tell us, Shane, you've had a bit of time to think about it. What is the game that you've chosen that had the biggest impact on your hurling career?
Yeah, like I suppose from the group that we were in, I suppose everyone would say 2010 and the final, and like talking to people, my view on it is that 2009 was actually a better hurling match. But I suppose the team with 10, Micheál Mahurty came into the dressing room afterwards. It was his last hurling match actually, commentating on, and he said it was the greatest game of hurling he ever seen. Now whether he meant it or not, I actually met him last year in the All-Ireland final. I asked him, and he said no, that it still was. So that was nice. But
he's still sticking with it, so
he did, and I thought maybe he just came in just to say it because on the day. But look, yeah, that's great to say you were part of that, the greatest hurling match that Micheál Mahurty's seen, and you came out the right side of it. But I suppose for me, the biggest game, or the biggest kind of game that changed my career, I suppose, was the 2008 Munster Championship match against Cork, down in Cork.
Okay, right.
I suppose nowadays everybody, with health and safety and everything, there's a maximum capacity, and rightly so. But whatever happened on that day, whether they oversold it or they underestimated the crowd that was coming, the crowd had to sit on the sidelines, and it was really back to the glory days of kind of the 1990s championship. Where people were on the sidelines and running out to players before the match was over. And that was my kind of first and only real experience of that. Now, to be honest, it didn't happen again, and I'd say they learned a big lesson from that. But it was a big game for us. I suppose it was the first real big championship test for us as a group under Liam Sheedy. And we were going down to Cork. We hadn't won there in 80 odd years. Now, it wasn't that we played down there 80 times. It was just the way the championship games fell. And for me, on a personal level, it was kind of a test for me to kind of say, right, it was my third year on the tip panel, and I kind of said, you're either going to be good enough here now or you're not. And what a test to have against Tom Kenny and Jerry O'Connor, the best midfield, maybe one of the best midfield partnerships of all time in hurling, really, and they took it to another level. So yeah, that was a massive day for us, Vincent, and there was a lot of thoughts in the head going down in the bus and everything, and whatever, I think it was because, Sheedy would be one of the main factors that we were just so ready that we had no choice but to perform, and we did. And it was just a great feeling, that was kind of saying to the rest of the country that, look, we're a good group. And for me personally, it was kind of saying, yeah, I went fine the same day, got on a few balls and got on the score sheet, and it just kind of, the self-confidence I got that, if I can hurl against Jerry O'Connor and Tom Kenny down in Páirc Uí Chaoimh, I can probably give it a go in most other places.
Okay, so there's a lot to kind of get stuck into there. I suppose, first of all, the background from a Tipperary point of view, the Babs Keating era hadn't ended well in 2007 with the loss to Wexford. Like everybody knows about Liam Sheedy now, and obviously his pedigree. Was he a bit of an unknown at the time for you taking over as manager, or given what he'd done with the minor team, was it I think in 05 or so maybe 06, was it kind of well established, or had you come across him maybe before he took over as manager?
Well, I suppose we all would have known Liam as the hurler, playing in full back line there for Tip, in 97 and stuff. But I suppose as the group as a whole would known very little about him as a manager. We would have obviously seen what he did with the minors and with the group he had with the minors. And it's just funny now that 4 or 5 of those guys are still going with him, even this year. But we didn't really know much about him as a manager. But everyone would have respected him highly because of what he does for his club and Portrue and everything. But he brought in guys like Eamon O'Shea, and like I could have said Eamon O'Shea's name to you 12 or 13 years ago, and a lot of people would know Eamon O'Shea is.
Yeah, that's true, yeah.
He was involved in the college hurling in Galway, great killer one man, and Liam obviously seen the potential in him. Cian O'Neill was, I won't say unknown, but a relatively unknown guy, and again, there he is now. He's one of the most respected S&C guys and coaches in the GA. And what Sheedy does is he just builds a team around him. He's the manager, like, and that's what good managers do. They build great teams around him, and he's a great people's person. And he just had us. We were just so up for that game. It was unreal, you know. And just everything was just done to a T. The minute we'd arrive, the minute we'd leave, the dressing rooms, everything. You know, the old Páirc Uí Chaoimh dressing rooms. I'm sure you were in them, Fintan. Like it was just a gallery inside there, like, because with the panels nowadays, there's just lads sitting on top of each other. The physio set up inside the showers. If lads wonder if it was a hot day, you couldn't stick your head under the shower or anything like that. God forbid if anyone went to the jacks or anything, like, you know. There wouldn't be the best air conditioning at the time, but everything was just done to a T, and we were just so ready, like, you know. And as I said, we'd no choice but to perform because Sheedy had it just so well oiled, like so well driven to just get the most out of us on the day. That's very hard to do, like, to do it when it counts most. But you know, I think under Sheedy especially, we kind of did it more often than not. Like.
You'd had a very good spring that year in winning the league, and I imagine that was good for confidence. But the thing I remember is that he talked a lot that year, for months out, about this. It was 85 years since Tip had beaten Cork in a championship game. Now, as you said, it wasn't like that he had played them 85 times in that sense. But it seemed he was kind of harnessing that as a cause. You know, we're heading down there into their backyard, and I guess it seemed from the outside he was kind of building up the motivation from early in the year, because obviously it was the old knockout Munster Championship style format, which we're coming back to this year, but the round robin thing was a good bit away. So it seemed like he was priming you for this game from a good bit out that season.
Oh God, yeah. I mean, that was when the draw was made, I suppose, late the previous year. I suppose the draws used to be in October, November time, and like, you know, Liam would have been involved in at that stage, and you know, we would have even kind of got back together as a group. Like, I suppose, you know, the training times were different, you know, 12, 13 years ago. Lads could probably do a bit together, like, but we were like, that was the goal, like, you know. Cork down in Cork hadn't been done in so long, and of all, you know, some of the great tip hurlers that went down there and didn't beat Cork down in Cork. And I suppose it was something that's always in the back of our heads. But he might have mentioned it once or twice, but it was always game by game then in the league. You know, who's next? You know, winning the league final was brilliant. Went away for a few days together, then doing a bit of training. And I suppose the focus, as soon as the league final was over, you know, he made no bones about it in the dressing room afterwards. It was nice to have the cup. But the Cork was the focus, and like, we were really, really up for it, like, you know. And you know, with all due respect to the Cork team, it's so much done at that stage too, that we were kind of a coming force, and that they were maybe coming towards the end, and that, you know, this was everything to us. Whereas you had guys with All-Ireland medals, several All-Stars, Hurler of the Year awards, you know, they had a lot done at that stage, and you know, we were just so up for the game, like. And you know, I suppose the funny thing about it is we went down 2 years later then, and we got our arses handed to us, like, you know, in 2010. So it just tell you, no matter what you are or how you think you're going, if you're not up for a game against any team, really, you know, I mean, you can just forget about it, like.
The venue, look, I suppose the old Páirc Uí Chaoimh, you know, wasn't the most luxurious or kind of comfortable of grounds, like, but I've read, like, Brendan Cummins talking before, as an actual pitch to play on and the kind of the amphitheatre, he said it was one of his favourite places to ever play a game of hurling. Like, that day, the fact that it was like Tip and Cork and the fans came down onto the pitch, the Cork fans had to sit behind the goal at the Blackrock end, like did the atmosphere, was it just electric from the word go?
The atmosphere was unbelievable. I mean, anyone that remembers the old dressing rooms of Páirc Uí Chaoimh, you have to go out to tunnel, but the tunnel is open to the public. It's not really like Croke Park where it's players only, and you could be running, tearing out, ready to play Munster Championship game. There could be 3 or 4 lads after, you know, maybe spending a bit of time in their own club beforehand, and you can see them there, the Tip jerseys, the Cork, and they're roaring at you. And that was just, I think that was kind of added to the magic of it. Like, we'll never see that again. Like, you won't see it for whatever reason. Like, you'll never see a fan being able to stand beside an inter-county guy running out of the dressing room. But
yeah, like the new Páirc Uí Chaoimh, it's completely separate.
Yeah, it's completely different. Tunnel, you know, yeah, they said, you know, looking enough to be down there last year pitch side with the minors, like, and it's just a different world altogether. Like, you know, it is as professional a setup as I've ever been in now. But it was just the magic of it then, I suppose, that you could run out and see your next door neighbour beside you, and like 2 minutes later you're out in the middle of the field for a throw in the middle of a Munster Championship match. And then just the way the design of the old Páirc Uí Chaoimh, that kind of Coliseum effect, like, it just added to the atmosphere. And when it was full, when the Blackrock end was full, and just the colour, and especially the colour that the Cork crowd bring, It was just unbelievable day. The sun was splitting the rocks. There wasn't a puff of wind in it, and it was just the pitch. The old Páirc Uí Chaoimh, or the park, as I know as they call it down there. Like, it was just the pitch is unbelievable. Like, it's, you know, it was as good as any pitch as I've ever played on, and you just kind of said to yourself walking out, if I can't hurl here today, like, there's something seriously wrong. Like, but, look, I think it was an amalgamation of us going down there trying to beat them, the weather, the crowd, the pitch, the atmosphere, and it just all came together as a kind of a perfect storm, Fintan. And it was just, you know, it was a pleasure just to be out there and being able to hurl that day.
Puck out by Brendan Cummins. John Gardner again tries to catch that ball first time. Lar Corbett by Seamus Callanan. Owen Kelly. This is when he's most dangerous. Trying to turn, takes a shot. Oh, what a brilliant goal! One ball, one shot, one goal.
It feels like reading up on it that the game kind of hinged on maybe two big moments into the Blackrock end. So the second of them is in the second half. Páirc O'Sullivan takes a penalty, which is saved. But the first is a goal midway through the first half from your star forward, Owen Kelly, who I suppose recently enough is still doing it from Mullinahone. I saw you tweeting about it and pointing out, you know, his kind of scoring heroics still at club level. But like that goal, it's just an absolutely brilliant strike, isn't it? And I mean, that must have given you some lift. You know, like what was it like to play with a guy like that, to have him inside the full forward line?
Yeah, I suppose, you know, the term GOAT is thrown around a lot of times, but for me personally, he's the greatest hurler I ever played with anyway, like, you know. And I think it's nice in maybe 20-30 years time to tell your kids like that, like I played around Kelly, like. And the goal he got that day, Don Loeb would still often bring it up every now and again. You know, if there's a great goal scored, you often hear him on the Sunday game going, he would talk about that goal, and I think that kind of gives the credit to how good the goal was, because Brian Murphy was marking on that day. Brian Murphy was at the height of his powers, and he was a serious cornerback, physical guy, good hurler, and he did everything right, like marking on. And Owen, just this swivel that he has, and he didn't lose it. He was even doing it last weekend again for the club, like. And he just it was almost like Bubba Watson, the way Bubba Watson can just hook that ball around in golf, like, or you know, just shape the ball. I think that's what Owen did. He just bent the ball around. It was almost Roberto Carlos, like. It nearly went wide first and came back in, and it gave us a massive lift. And then and I think Owen was one of the only players who would have been able to score that goal. Just the physical strength to shove off the guy, and then just the ability to bend it around Owen Logue. And then the other side, the Páirc O'Sullivan incident, then I just see Brendan again, the height of his powers again. You know, he was just so good at reading lads. He used to always say he would never look at the way a guy was going to strike it. He would always look at the eyes or the feet, and he'd know from that which side it was going to go. And lucky for us, he got a hurley to it, made a great save, and we just drove on up the field in after it. Like, so yeah, it's gas. You know, it is really a game of inches, like, and a couple of inches either side there of either of those incidents, and we could have lost. And who knows where we would have led in, you know, as a group, like so.
So I suppose you're talking there about Brendan in goal and Owen at the far end of the pitch. You've touched on for you in the middle of the field. You felt that this was a big year in terms of trying to establish yourselves, and you've mentioned your opponents at that time. Like, as a player at the county level, were Tom Kenny and Jerry O'Connor, were they the benchmark in terms of midfield play and the partnership, and that was the standard and level you felt you had to get up to? Yeah,
they were. Tom definitely, physical wise and fitness wise, okay. I would have looked at him and saying, need to get to the level of this guy, because we would have marked him in 2006 Munster final. And I suppose it was all new to me. Like, it was my first Munster final. I wasn't really nervous. I was just kind of excited more about it. And I think later on, as your career goes on, you get more nervous about things, because maybe you know about all the potentials that can happen and all the pitfalls. But when you're younger, it's just, you know, you're just happy to be there and you're just kind of hurling with freedom. And I would have seen just the physical fitness up front of Tom Kenny and Jerry O'Connor in 2006. I was like, John O'Brien is always slags me. He says, I look like someone who could have been playing the primary game that day. Like, I was playing midfield for 16. And I was just going like, I have to try and get to this level. Like, I have to try and get to that level of physical fitness and strength, and then hope and get my hurling up to it as well. And yeah, they were the standard. I think they took it to a new level. I mean, Ollie Baker took it to a new level in the 90s for Clare, and I think they came on and they took it to another level then with regards to physical fitness and skill and the ability to be, you know, a Paul Scholes type box-to-box player or that kind of player for their team, and very rarely get taken off or very rarely look tired doing it. Like,
so I was looking at it. You actually scored the opening point of the game to put Tip ahead, but Tip didn't go back in front until the 61st minute, and it was from there then you seem to finish like a train and you win by 6 points, and the season takes off from there. And that Tip team, as you pointed out, I mean, you go on to contest the All-Ireland final the following year, and then the success of 2010 comes.
Yeah, that's it. Look, and it was really, I didn't even know that, actually, to be honest. I suppose the confidence you got from looking around at the group, and then the lads that came off the bench, and then every time you looked out at Sheedy, like he was just so buzzing, like, and you'd feed off that energy, and you'd feed off the energy of the crowd, and it was just the kind of like, if we didn't do it that day, when were we going to do it kind of thing for the group? And I think that's just what pushed us on and got us over the edge, and just we really, really wanted to win so badly that day, and I think that's what probably tipped it for us, Fintan.
Now, I know you picked this game, Shane, the 2008 Munster semi-final, but there was another match that you, I suppose, wanted to talk about that was kind of right up there in terms of having an impact on your career.
There was, yeah. It's kind of a funny story, but it kind of had a personal impact. 2004 Munster final under 21 against Cork was on the stadium. With a good team, I suppose the unfortunate thing is a lot of those guys didn't go on and play senior for Tip for one reason or another. And it was kind of my first year on a Tip panel. I never played minor or anything for Tip, and it was going well coming the week, coming up to training. And so anyway, the match was going on anyway, and the manager was called Seamus Power, a very, very well regarded guy now in Tipperary GA. Like, he was the manager. One of the wing forwards went down, and that was my position at the time, about maybe 10, 12 minutes into the game. And he just rolled up to Shane McGrath, and the boys like, "Go on now, McGrath, go on down." So he was going down with the hurling helmet anyway. It was ready for road. And he handed me a water bottle, and he says, "Will you go over and do the water to the other side of the field?" And I was so demoralised, and a lot of my friends and family were at the match, and obviously your friends just slag you, they don't care,
Yeah.
And I was just like going, "Oh my God, this is so embarrassing." So anyway, there I was with all togged off to the nines doing the water, and we won anyway, and we great old crack afterwards, and still have very good friends from that group. But I just said to myself, I'm never ever going to be embarrassed like that in hurling again. Whether it's good, bad, or indifferent, I'm never ever doing the water. I'm never going to do the water again if I'm togged out, if I'm injured or not involved.
Okay, right.
But I just that was a turning point for me. And there's nothing against the manager or anything like that. You know what I mean? He has a job to do, and we won the match, and that's it. But I just felt so embarrassed, and I was just like going, "God, is this what hurling is like?" And I had to look at myself in the mirror and say, like, it's not their fault for me doing the water. Like, it's my fault. I'm obviously not going well enough. I'm obviously not strong enough. So, I had a good look at myself. Would have started college in LIT the following. I had started college in LIT, but would started hurling Fitzgibbon the following year in 2005. Like, hurling at a good level. Davey was the manager, and you had the likes of Jackie Tyrrell, and Owen was in there, and Manny was there, Fraggy was there. Irritanian, these guys who were physical guys and were playing inter-county senior level, and I just looked at the way they trained, and I said, I have to get to that level if I ever want to do anything. And that was it then. Kind of had a good year at Fitz, and made the 21s team, and after that then at the end of 05 got called in for trial with the senior boys, and it's not a million years ago, but got the letter at home to say you're being asked to attend the trial, and it was great, and just kind of pushed on from there and kind of took the chances. But yeah, that was a big turning point. Yeah, definitely the 04 Munster final. Like, yeah,
it obviously built some resolve though, because I mean, you mentioned that you didn't play minor. You're not coming from one of the bigger clubs in Tipperary, so is there all a sense you have to kind of fight that bit harder for maybe the recognition and to kind of maybe get noticed?
Yeah, I suppose there is, I know Cody always says to be a good county hurler, you have to be an outstanding club hurler, but there might be many people going to Ballinhinch club matches because we're intermediate level in Tip, and unless you're getting to kind of county final stage, people don't really know what goes on in your matches. But I suppose the window for me was the Fitzgibbon, and I took my chance, and then I would have pushed on and made the team for the Tip 21s and had a good campaign with him that year. And Babs just happened to be at the Munster final, under 21 Munster final, and as I said, went fine that night. And as he told me, he said he didn't know much about maybe what went on in the Fitzgibbon that year, but he was very impressed with what I did that night under 21. So it's gas, if he wasn't at that match, who knows? Like, maybe I would have never got the break. But I suppose what's for you won't pass you, as they say. And that was my chance, and I grabbed it with both hands at the time. And lucky enough, got a few breaks early on in the trial games, and went all right in the league and all that. So it just was kept on, and you'd be just very grateful for getting the opportunity.
When you're achieving the ultimate success later in your career with Tip in 2010, and obviously you're getting these personal accolades like the All-Star Awards, are you thinking back to days like that 2014 or 2004 under 21 games saying, God, I've come a long way?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and would have met Seamus Power, and we'd often have a joke and have a drink together about it since. But I would always appreciate him giving me the chance to even be on the panel, And the funny thing about the 2004 thing was I started the All-Ireland semi-final against Down.
Okay.
So, and then we went down to play Kilkenny, and we got beat by, I don't know, 40-something points down in Nolan Park that year in 2004. But anyway, you would definitely think about it. And, if I was ever talking to any of the kids from Ballynahinch or any kids around that maybe, maybe don't make it so easy earlier on in their career, I would say, look, if you really, really want to make it, you have to work harder. And if you don't, that's fine too. It's not for everyone, the hard work or the sacrifice. I would have missed out in 10, 11 years of having to crack with my best friends. And I've only kind of got to know them properly since I kind of finished up with Tip a few years ago. And, that's it. That's the sacrifices you make. But, you do miss it for the lads being able to go away during the summers and stuff like that. But I'd say, any of the lads would give anything to be in Croke Park playing for Tip and All-Ireland final winning day.
Yeah, certainly would. That's some brilliant memories from your hurling career. Shane, thanks a million for joining us today on the Life Changing Moments podcast series on the 42 in association with UPMC, the official healthcare partner of the GPA and GAA.
Tipperary remain unbeaten. They've won the Waterford Crystal Tournament. They've won the National League. And for the first time in 86 years, Tipperary have come to Cork, to Páirc Uí Chaoimh, and beaten the Leesiders, and beaten them impressively as well.